Do you want me to ask you random questions, or would you prefer to wait until something happens?
Is something gonna happen?
Well, I don't know. If you sit in silence with someone for long enough, eventually someone breaks first.
Oh, I'm not trying to break you. I was just following the natural flow of the conversation until, like, Jesus, I'm sorry, I didn't know we were on a time limit for silence. What's like how many seconds until you feel so uncomfortable you have to pull your cards out?
Usually about like 4 or 5.
Okay, gotcha. I'll keep that going in my head.
How many seconds until you feel uncomfortable?
Um, it depends on how weird the person is and if I feel like I'm being tested. I can sit in silence for a long time, okay?
Okay, all right. Okay, let's do
Yeah,
something
okay.
more
Oh,
lighthearted.
there
What
they are. Okay, gotcha.
what aspect about me gives you the strongest negative feeling?
What aspect about you gives me the strongest negative feeling?
Yeah.
You're not gonna like my answer.
Okay, okay. I just got like a wave of fear.
Really? It's the weird
Yeah.
fucking shower thing. Absolutely, duh. Of course.
I did not know that. That was not come to my mind at all.
Well,
Yeah, that freaks you out.
a little bit. I knew a girl one time in college who had the same mentality that you do, and she mentioned the same thing. And this isn't fair. It's not fair for me to think of this of you, or I don't think of you this way. That's kind of weird. And it probably wasn't even fair for me to think of the girl like that. But all I could think about in my mind was at the end of the day, she would just walk into the bathroom, grab like a dirty fucking like rag, and then like put some soap on it and like scrub her armpits and her pussy and her ass, and then go to bed. And every time I saw her, that was all I could think about. And I couldn't even like, I couldn't touch her anymore. I didn't want to do anything sexually because it's all I could think about was like I could be eating like your armpit out of your ass right now, and on the same like, and I just couldn't. It just like destroyed my mind. That's all. That's all I could think of.
Huh.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about it right now?
With that person, yeah, that's what I'm. Yeah, it's weird. But hey, listen, you
Do
live
you
your
have
life,
a
so.
do you have a high disgust reflex in general, or is it specifically for like gross stuff? Like
Um,
physically gross stuff?
I think my gross reflex is probably like a little lower than normal, but it's gonna depend. Actually, I don't know if I would say that. I don't know what normal is. I don't think I would rate that at all. Actually, never mind. I'm not gonna do that because some people are really fucking disgusting. Like my cleanliness standards are a million times higher than everybody that works in streaming and YouTube because they're disgusting, gross fucking human beings. But I would assume that theirs are way lower than normal. But I don't actually know if that's the case. So I don't know. Like, if you have more than like 4 empty glasses or cans or whatever on your table, something is wrong. If you've got more than like 2 or 3 fast food bags in front of you, something is wrong. If you're like, if the floor of your bedroom is the biggest shelf in your house for clothing, something is wrong. That's where my mind is. How many of those did you just fail? Based on the laughter, it was at least 2 of them.
Actually, well, I used to fail them a lot, but then I got a housekeeper, so now I'm clean all the time.
Nice. Okay, you're living that influencer lifestyle.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Actually, it's like probably shouldn't based on my budget, but I'm just like disproportionately terrible at keeping my house clean, so I spend disproportionately more money to try and fix it.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, hey, listen, if it works for you.
Oh, not a bad answer.
I'm gonna reflect the same question on you, obviously.
Hmm. Maybe knowing that you tell people to kill times. That makes me feel like a little like
Were you like suicidal at one point in your life?
no. I just don't like it when people tell me myself, and they do it a lot.
Okay, gotcha. All right. I've said way worse things than
Whenever
that
they
to people,
do,
so
I'm
but I'm
like,
flattered. All right.
but when they do, I'm like, why would you do that? I just feel like hurt and
That's the
like
goal. Yeah,
really
that's what you're
like
trying to do. You're trying to hurt somebody. Yeah, that's the whole point.
okay, maybe that's the thing that I dislike the most about you
Is
is
trying to
like
hurt
I
people.
that sometimes you try and hurt people. Yeah,
Okay, gotcha. Okay, Lex Freedman. Jeez. All right. Okay.
is that what he says?
Yeah, he shouted at me for an hour about calling people retarded. That was his problem
Wait, was this on a podcast or is it off a podcast?
on a podcast.
Can I tell you? Did I tell you? Who did I tell a funny story about Lex recently? I don't think it was you. I met Lex at a party and I didn't know who he was.
Mm-hmm.
A poor guy. I just started talking to. I was in the middle of this conversation with another girl and he was right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I started talking like graphic, like we were discussing very graphic sexual things. I was like asking her about her fetishes and stuff.
Okay.
And he just like turned around and left.
Ouch.
It's not super funny, but that was the first time.
Do you engage in those conversations regularly in front of other people? Because that's pretty rude if you do.
Well, like organically we arrived on that conversation because I said I was like, oh, I'm a kink researcher, I research fetishes, and she was like, oh, I have a fetish, and then I was like, what fetish? And then
Okay.
it organically followed.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's only like 10% of the time my first question to people.
Okay, gotcha. To be fair, I only like say like 5% of people I meet, so technically I'm lower on that index than you are, but all right.
Yeah, I think I'm modeling you as like you compartmentalize the desire, like the hurting, the like arg urge you have towards people, so like I can tell myself that you're not going to do it to me, and so I feel fine. Is this true?
Maybe, hopefully. Yeah, well, I guess we'll see. Every person, I have to talk like this is going to be played back in some fucking compilation in like 6 months. Every person that I meet at some point tries to fuck me over super fucking hard. Okay, so maybe you'll be that person in the future. We'll see. It's possible. And then I'll be telling you to kill yourself.
Yeah. Fuck you over?
Oh yeah. I don't know if it's like a me thing. I like bring out the worst in people, and I've got like a particular set of characteristics that make me very, very, very hard to get along with. Like the hardest job in the world is probably my wife's job, because being married to me is a fucking ordeal. Okay.
What is that set of characteristics?
Just imagine like combine like a little bit of sociopathy with a little bit of psychopathy with a whole lot of ADHD, a ton of autism, a lot of like fucking sexual promiscuity, and then a lot of like fucking like plays too much of like really weird video games and like is like very argumentative, and just like it makes for like a whole basket of like annoying fucking traits to deal with. I'm a very big like I think an experience with me is very much like a up and down. Like me at my best is like really cool. A person that seems really interested in you is like mirroring a lot of your emotions and feelings and is like really interested in blah, blah, blah. But then like me at my worst is like, I just want to work on my stream shit for like a month. I need you to get the fuck away from me. And if that means we have to break up, then get the fuck out of my life. Like those are like the two sides of like being with me. And I think that when you're in that orbit of being around me, it could be my wife, it could be a friend, it could be a fellow content creator. The feeling that you get is this guy doesn't care about me. I'm probably incredibly replaceable to him, and I should find somebody that like actually loves me more instead of somebody who just has me around when it's convenient for them. I think those are the feelings that I elicit in people, which makes me really hard to be around in the long term. Yeah.
So sometimes people do a thing where they like through tone or something or like actions, like I need to be alone for a month, for example, like elicit the signal that they want other people to go away, or you don't like them or something. But sometimes you can like just explicitly say things like, I still like you and I want you in my life and you're not replaceable, but also don't see me for a month. Like, do you explicitly say those things, or is it difficult for you to remember to say those things in the moment?
The problem, this took me a long time to learn. I learned this 4 years ago, actually, with a girl, because women teach us all of our best interpersonal life lessons. Conversations don't cut it and words don't matter much. Regardless of what you say for some things, people will interpret things in a certain way. Yeah. But that just makes me more upset. So like me and Melina fight a lot over like, do you actually love me? Do you want me in this relationship? Blah, 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 blah. And then in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, well, I moved to this $5,000 a month apartment for you. I've gone through this ordeal, fucking huge process of like getting married to you. Like I didn't even sign a prenuptial agreement. Like, of course I love you. I'd support you in this, blah, 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 blah. Like, why are you even asking me this fucking question? But the reason why is because in her mind, because of the way that most people work, is if two people love each other, the idea of like pushing somebody away to like work on something for a week or two, or to hook up with like a random person or do all this shit, that's just like incompatible. Like most people don't work that way. So if you see somebody do it, even if they give you verbal reassurances, it doesn't matter, because like you can tell me you love me all you want, but the fact that you're pushing me away shows me that you don't love me. And when you say you love me, you're just lying. You're just saying that to placate me. I think that's the feeling that people get.
So what do you think? Maybe we should do a prediction market on if I'll screw you over within 6 months.
It's so sad. I don't even want to. I'm just you. I had like a whole. It's so crazy, but I had a whole arc over the last year to where I try to. I have an issue to where I think I might be a little bit too detached from people. So I try to like, I'm going to make friends and I'm going to share. I'm a very internally driven person. All of my motivation comes from myself. I don't really care much about people supporting me or telling me good job. It's usually annoying to me. And I process most things alone too. Like if I have a problem, I'll think about it. I'm like, okay, well, what should I do? And then I'll figure that out. And for the most of my life, that's kind of been required, and it's also worked really well for me. And I think I have a really good process for doing that. But then obviously, anytime you tell this to somebody, and I don't disagree for people for thinking it, people will assume that like, okay, well, that's really unhealthy. You're probably repressing a whole bunch of shit. It's going to blow up, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I audit my behavior. I try to see if I'm like doing things where it's coming out in a negative manner, but I don't think it does. So I think I'm usually fine. But over the last year, I was like, okay, I'm going to go out of my way to try to make more friends and share problems and experiences because, you know, people say that feels good and I'm going to talk to people, blah, blah, blah. And I tried to do that last year. And one of the people that I tried to do that with was fucking Max, was MrGirl. And it was funny because I have this whole thing where in the beginning, because he has a, I'm trying to be neutral. I'm not going to come across as neutral, but I genuinely do think, and I don't even mean this in a loaded way, okay? I think he's NPD. I think he has narcissistic personality disorder. But I think he has like a deep need or desire to be trusted by another person. That's really important to him. When he's talking to somebody, if you ask questions that betray a thought that shows that you don't trust him, he gets very hurt and very upset by that. So in a lot of our earlier conversations, he's like, do you trust me? I'll be your close friend. I'm never going to betray you. I'm going to be so close to you. And I think like 6 months ago, I have this whole monologue where I lay out, I was like, listen, even if you don't betray me, usually what happens is most of the people that betray me don't feel like they're betraying me. They feel like I've made some egregious error and they're actually in the right and they're on like a moral crusade to take me down because they feel like in their heart of hearts, they're doing the right thing. And I gave that whole speech to him and I told him this is how it usually goes. And he's like, oh, I will never backstab you or betray you, Stephen, blah, blah, blah. And I think now he's like 2 weeks into an article writing about how like I'm a sadistic of like every woman I've ever had on my stream. And he's like contacted people like 9 years from my past to try to like get research for it. It's like the most insane shit anybody's ever done about me in my entire life. So that's just kind of that's just the pattern, you know?
Are you bad at choosing the right people to trust?
I don't have really any practice in it, so probably, I guess. The problem is that even though I try not to do it, in some ways, I'm really good at empathizing with other people. I think it's a really big talent I've had, and I've had to develop it through political debates. It's how I get in with so many different types of communities. Like right now, like the whole black woman community online loves me because I defended them because of a whole bunch of conversations I had with other black women against black men. There's like all these crazy communities I can get into because I'm very empathetic. But I still have this unempathetic problem of where I project my mind state onto other people, and I assume that their thought processes are similar to mine when they're very dissimilar sometimes. So with Max, the huge error that I made was I don't, there's gonna be a nice way to say this, but in my mind, I feel like I am, if you know the term like Machiavellian, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I would consider myself to be somewhat Machiavellian. I'm not gonna do something to like fucking destroy my life if I don't have to. That would be so stupid. So I figure for Max, I'm your sole connection to the public world. I'm the only big creator that would ever give you the time of day. I try really hard to translate your messages to make sure other people understand them. Like I'm providing you all these opportunities. Even if I did do something like genuinely fucking horrible, there's no way this person is gonna backstab me because I'm like everything for this person. Why would they ever do that? But that's like me projecting my state of mind, and I'm not considering, well, hold on, let's say he is actually narcissistic, and maybe he does feel like a higher calling to do this, and maybe he is willing to throw away every single thing in his life to follow what he believes is his higher calling to expose me. That's a totally alien thought process to me. I wouldn't even have thought it was possible until I saw him go through it, and then I take a step back and I think about it. I was like, okay, I guess it just does make sense. So, yeah.
What triggered this? Like when you tell the story, the thing that my brain fills in is there must have been some sort of disagreement between you two, or one where he felt sort of humiliated. That made him decide to go do it. Is this true, or did it just happen out of the blue?
There's two things that it might have come from. I'm not sure which it is yet. The first one was we had a genuinely huge disagreement over my engagement with far-right figures and whether or not we should label them Nazis or not. My engagement with far-right people is usually like something I did last year is like relentless empathy. Okay, I understand your position. Like we can talk, we can be friends, we can chill. I'm gonna try to move you slowly, but like it culminated with Fuentes and this. Like he came over to my house, we chatted in my room, we went out, we got fucking dinner, we were streaming it, we were chatting, we were arguing a lot. A lot of it was arguing, but it was like kind of friendly. And he thought that I was sanitizing him. He thought that was a really bad thing for me to do. And we had 2 days of prolonged.
Wait, he thought that you were sanitizing. This Fuentes. Is all Nick thought you were sanitizing.
No, I'm sorry. Too many pronouns. Max thought that I was sanitizing Nick Fuentes.
Okay.
So he came on my stream and he made the argument that like you are engaging in behavior that's going to make somebody like Fuentes more popular. He's it might lead to him being the next fucking and you're like, this is a really irresponsible behavior that you're engaging in. I disagreed with him, he disagreed with me, and that eventually bled over to a big fight on my subreddit. And in the course of, I think it was in the course of 60 days, he'd made 700 posts on my subreddit arguing with my fans over whether or not he was right or he was wrong. He was growing his sub at like the same time, but his community was like growing in my community. So there was this really weird dynamic that was developing on my subreddit where like him and his fans that were also my fans were like attacking me and my fans using my subreddit to do it. And at some point, I think Forethought, my subreddit mod, pulled the trigger on banning him, and he felt like, this is over. Like, I can't defend myself in your community. All these people are shit talking me. This is fucking horrible. And now you're like the enemy of the state. And then from there, a couple of weird things happened, and he got this weird thing of me in his head, and it just like went off into some outrageous fucking thing where our communities are like completely like, his whole community is like an anti-fan Destiny community right now, basically. That's like the short, believe it or not, that's the short version of that. But yeah, so it was either started by our initial disagreement over the Nazi thing and he was upset that I didn't agree with him, or it was started over the subreddit thing where he's upset that he got banned from my subreddit and I didn't immediately unban him. It took me like 6 or 7 days. I didn't immediately unban him, and he thought that that was like a betrayal of yeah, sorry, Jesus.
In my model, I process that as humiliation. Like, he felt humiliated.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. Can somebody link me real quick his girlfriend's drawing, and then you can get an idea of where they stand and everything. Jesus Christ.
So you said that like everyone that you've trusted has betrayed you. What's your sample size?
I don't know. Do you know who Vaush and Hasan are?
I've seen the VAUSH.
Yeah, VAUSH.
I've seen the name.
Yeah, both of these guys kind of spun out of my community. I think I helped Vaush. I 100%. His whole backstory is like debating me on the internet like 10 years ago, and then he eventually spun off a whole community off of that. For Hasan, I boosted him a ton early on. He was like a 100 viewer streamer, and I gave him a platform on my stream. We did a whole bunch of collaboration, and then he spun off. And usually the spin-offs are over. We'll have a disagreement over something, and then I think they feel like they can do better on their own, so then they become an anti-fan of me. So like right now, like the 3 largest lefty streamers on the internet, Vaush, Hasan, and Destiny, none of the 3 of us can work with each other because both of them are so unimaginably fucking spiteful against me. And Hasan will only do things for clout, so he won't work with Vaush. So it's this really stupid fucking world where none of us will do any content or work together. And yeah, I don't know, it's just dumb. Here's the, to get an idea of the dynamic that MrGirl believes exists, this is what his girlfriend drew of all of us.
What?
So I'm the guy on the left.
Wait, so this is
his girlfriend,
okay,
who he wheeled out for these debates. So I'm the guy on the left. I have like the dog. That's my subreddit mod, Forethought. And then all of the people on their knees are like people on my stream. Man, if you would have been in my stream, you know, just a month earlier, you could have been one of these dogs, I guess. But these are just like people that come on my stream and argue with me or are friends with me. And then in the back is Lav being killed by members of my community, I guess. Yeah. Another one of his friends who's no longer friends with him.
Should I ask who Lav is? I've seen the name.
Give me some stories, but I feel like I'm talking. I feel like it's just a whole bunch of like, do you know the football meme?
The football meme.
This is what I feel like right now. There's just like a lot of stupid shit in my fucking streaming life. Okay.
Well, I've talked to you a few times now, and I often hear the name Lav brought up. I don't like need to know if this is like an old drama that you've rehashed a billion times.
I don't mind telling you. I just don't know if you're sitting here like this is unbelievably fucking boring, or I don't know why.
I would not have asked if I were not interested.
Okay. The long and short of it is that Lav is the second person I decided to talk to and make friends with. Man, what a horrible set of decisions I've made. But Lav is somebody that reached out to me to be a little flirty, I think like 2 or 3 years ago on Instagram. She reached out to me, we chatted on and off for a little bit, and then for about a year, I think we stopped talking, and then we reconnected about a year later. This would have been about maybe 8 months ago. We started chatting again, things seemed to pick up a little bit. I think we ended up hooking up in LA, like everything was kind of cool. And then she was like, I want to get into streaming. And so she starts to get into streaming, and in my opinion, I think she's an incredibly smart person. She's like 130 IQ woman, like very, very adept at navigating online conversations. As much as people fucking hate her, she'd jump into these panels like 1v6 and fucking destroy every fucking person. And they're even right in the arguments, but she's just so good at like navigating conversations and talking. It's really funny watching her like go through like a ton of people, whatever. When she came onto my stream, the arguments were always like really intense. She was bringing other people in. People say they hate her, she's dumb or whatever, but like I'm getting like 10 to 15,000 viewer streams when she's on arguing. It's really, really, really good content. But I disagree with her on a ton of shit. I think a lot of her arguments were really fucking dumb, but I think she's a smart person. She's like a Jordan Peterson kind of person in my mind, where she's smart, but she has a lot of dumb opinions. Over the course of the Max breakup, Max did this really weird thing where he convinced himself that I am sexually abusive to everybody in my orbit that are women. And he started to go to work on Lav, like bringing her onto streams and like telling her like, Steven is abusive towards you. His whole cycle is abusive. I left that community just so that you could be brave enough to leave. And I left it for you. And I'm not saying you have to leave it, but you really should. And I guess she told him at some point that we hooked up, and then they got it in their heads that I must have used pressure on Lav to do something. I don't know what. And there was this whole weird thing spun off, and then they kind of like joined forces as part of that group. But Lav does really stupid shit all the time, so she basically nuked her career off the internet, making a false allegation that Hasan fucked her, which wasn't true. And now she does like 20 viewer streams and some random discords. Also, her and MrGirl hate each other now because she went back to OnlyFans, which she said she would never do. And yeah, that's the shortened version of that, basically. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the last drama arc on my stream. Yeah. What are you gonna do?
So are you like not gonna trust anyone anymore?
Hey, well, here's the thing. I did really well prior to that. I don't think I need any of that cringe.
You trust anyone?
Yeah, that's like cringe shit. I think I'm good. I think I do pretty well.
Wait, I don't understand why you have to make a decision about it. Like, can't you just like be as guarded as feels good to you and engage with somebody, and then eventually over time you like have observed their behavior for long enough that you can make like predictions about their future behavior that you have like higher confidence in?
So this is what I've learned in my life. I feel like the only way I can trust somebody is if I'm in an incredibly vulnerable spot and you don't fuck me over. Until then, nothing matters to me. Because there are people that, like the Vaush guy, like that guy owes his whole career to me. He was on my stream as a guest to argue with me for like 8 years. He got into a weird harassment allegation from like another person that could have nuked his whole career, and I deleted the video from my channel so that it wouldn't hurt him. Like I'd gone out of my way for this guy so many times, like so like that would be a guy where this guy can't possibly backstab me, and then he did. Now his community is like one of the biggest like anti-fan Destiny communities on the internet. And then same thing with Hasan. Like I'm like staying over at this guy's house. I offer him a place to live for a little bit while he's like moving. Like we're doing a ton of real life content. Like he'll say now that like I was suicidal in Destiny's community, but there are old videos of him saying like I'm so grateful for Destiny's community that like I would have never been able to get here so far if it wasn't for how awesome you guys were. And then he ends up being like a far left communist that I didn't think he was, and then he ends up spinning out. So it's like, yeah, I don't know how to figure out, like it feels like people are very tepid when it comes to like supporting people, which is whatever, I don't know. Or let me be a little bit more fair. Earlier I said I was a very difficult person to be close to for a long period of time. I don't have any networking clout at all. All of my networking clout is downhill from me. It's people that benefit from being with me. So if you stand alongside me in any internet drama, you're in the line of fire from like 15 different fucking communities. So that's also, and you don't get any support. All there is my community. No other big community is going to support you, and everybody else hates you. So that's also probably an added difficulty, is that when you're in my corner, like all the far right people hate you, all of the moderate right people hate you, all the crazy left people hate you, all the trans people hate you. There are other large streamer communities that hate you, and it's just like you're kind of fucked at that point. Yeah.
How much does it weigh on you?
Which part?
Like the fact that if anybody stands alongside you, they get decimated by the communities that are trying to decimate you?
I mean, I give people warning. I usually just tell people like, hey, like if you want to like do this, that's cool. But like if you are in this area, like everybody's gonna shit on you if you come out for this or whatever. Like I talked with Aella about that.
Yeah, but does it weigh on you?
What do you mean weigh on me?
Like, do you sometimes sit there and be like, fuck? You know?
No, I mean, I give people warning. I mean, it's all I could do, right? If it happens, it happens. But like, there's nothing I can do about it at that point, right?
I assume you have not read my blog post on frame control.
Frame control?
Yeah, there's I think I'm not sure. I think I might categorize MrGirl as doing this thing.
Okay.
It's like a conversational technique or way of being that makes that triggers the like, I don't want to engage anymore thing for me personally. But it's like when somebody, like typically when you're debating with somebody, it's very clear what their frame is. Like they have this worldview where things are normal, and they're trying to convince you that to join their thing. And so it can be like badgering, persuading,
Mm-hmm.
reasoning. There's like all different types of things. They're trying to be like, hey, come over to my side.
Mm-hmm.
But like there's this type of reasoning where they are not trying to be obvious about what side they're on, and instead get you to come over to their side without saying so, without being obvious
Okay.
that they are actually different.
Sure.
Um, and this is the thing that freaks me out quite a lot, and I think it's usually quite subtle.
Mm-hmm.
um like maybe the problem is like all the examples are poor. I'd like to give an example, but a lot of the examples
I
are
can,
again subtle, like
maybe
depending
I
on
can
the
try to give
context.
you one example. This sounds similar to what you're saying, and it was the first time where it completely reframed a way that I saw MrGirl. So one of the things that I love about Max is I think Max is incredibly intelligent. And I really like people that can. He's incredibly intelligent, and he has his whole own unique set of social rules. Like somebody might say that like somebody child, and he's going to come up with a take where it's like maybe they were sleepwalking and it was an adult and it's not actually that bad. Like he'll have an argument like that, and it's like okay, that's fascinating to me. Even if I totally disagree, I love fully
Yeah,
fleshed out alternative systems of viewing the world are so interesting to me. Even though I completely
I
disagree with them.
strongly agree with that. Yeah.
So that was one of my favorite reasons why I enjoyed talking with him. It's like you're so crazy in everything you're saying, but like it's so interesting working within that framework, and you've got your own rules and everything. But it's very hard for me, or it was very hard for me to figure out, like, are you like a manipulative / abusive person? I can't tell. It's very hard because the way that you navigate is you walk both sides of this so well that it's hard to actually call out any one particular behavior. I think that when I was younger, like in my early 20s and late teens, I think that I had a lot of kind of like manipulative behavior. It's just like maladaptive things or whatever. I wasn't aware that it was kind of shitty at the time. But now that I'm older and I changed my behavior because I don't want to be like that, and I want healthy relationships, I kind of look back and like, okay, this is not a good thing to do. This is not a good thing to do. He was having a conversation with Lav. This is one of the first things I saw that majorly made me reframe how I viewed him. And he used this. It was such a good manipulator tactic. It's so effective. And I saw him use it in real time. I was like, that motherfucker. So let's say that you want to go out and do something, okay? You want to go out and you want to hang out with James. And I really fucking hate James, okay? I don't want you to hang out with James, okay? But I don't want to say that because that makes me feel bad, right? So a stupid person would say, you shouldn't hang out with James, okay? A more clever person might go up to you and be like, is hanging out with James a good idea? Like, haven't you heard these things about James, right? But a really clever person, manipulator, is what they do is they will talk to you about the person. They'll give you the reasons why you probably shouldn't. And then when it's obvious that you've made the decision not to, they'll try to push you into doing it. But they know you're going to say no. And that type of manipulation is so effective because the other person feels like they're making the decision. In retrospect, you can say they did and that you tried to warn them against it, but you're still completely driving the cart the whole time. So with Lav, he did this thing to where I think he was actually crying, or he was very close to it. He was talking about how like, I left Destiny's community for you. And I just had to get out of there because it was so horrible the way that I was being treated. It was just the worst fucking thing ever. And I think you should leave that community. And like, it was obvious at this point that she was gone. She was like, yeah, I'm going to leave. And then after it was pretty obvious, he was like, but you don't have to leave if you don't want to. And then she started to argue against him where it's like, no, like I do, I need to leave. I'm going to, and like, she's starting to take up like his argument without realizing it. When I saw him do that, but that, I don't know if that's similar to the type of manipulation you're talking about where they're kind of like arguing you into their framework, but you don't even realize that it's happening. Seeing that play out in real time, I was like, holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like he was like making like the bid for social reassurance. Like the reassurance bid is so strong. And I noticed earlier, about like 20 minutes ago, you did not respond to a bid for reassurance, or like what could have been interpreted for one, which I was really enjoed.
Wait, which bid for reassurance?
I don't remember.
God,
I just
write
remember
these down, motherfucker.
I know I should start writing them down. But I was thinking like, oh, I think I said something like, oh, it's something around like trust or, maybe I'll screw you over. So, I don't know.
Hmm.
And there was something like, and instead of being like, oh, don't worry, you were like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not rich. But
Oh,
anyway,
where sometimes people, oh
this,
yeah, I never give those. Yeah, fuck that. I'll be very honest about everything. If some people, but sometimes I'm autistic
right.
about it, right? Like Melina will ask me like, oh, like we're gonna be married forever, right? And I'll be like, oh, I hope so, maybe. But like that's autistic. I should just say yes, of course, because those bids are important. But yeah, I
No,
understand what you're saying. Yeah.
no, I love it when people don't do those bits. Like one of the people I'm dating right now, well, actually both of them. This is the thing that makes me fall for someone is when they don't do those bids to me. I'm like, do you think I'm pretty? And they're like, well, you're like, and they start like properly evaluating it because they're like not performing the social role of reassuring me. And I'm like, something I love so much.
Sure,
Love it
you
so
might
much.
feel that way,
Anyway,
and that's great, and I agree. But 99% of people need that. That's like that's like a fundamental part of like
sure.
human interaction, right? Yeah.
Right, but okay. We're now officially going down a side road. But
Oh yeah,
like,
sorry. Okay, oh yeah, go for it.
on principle, typically don't reassure people
Mm-hmm.
because like I think it's better not. Like, people might like think they want it, but like it feels better to tell the truth. Like, yeah, like maybe the bad thing will happen. I'm going to be honest with you about that. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to try and do this thing where I warp my perception to view myself as the kind of person that's never going to let you down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I might, like, I typically have not been involved in drama, but like I don't want to reassure you that I'm always going to be trustworthy and never going to like do anything to screw you over because like I don't fucking know.
Sure.
But like there's a really strong incentive to like perceive myself as the kind of person who wouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it just feels like honorable. It feels like resisting the urge to do the rose-colored glasses on reality. And I think in the long run, you end up hurting fewer people when you're honest. But
Okay.
so I approve of it strongly. I wish more people would do it.
I think that when
Although
people,
sometimes,
oh god.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think when people are looking for reassurance, it's like they're not actually asking the question. Like if somebody says like, "Do you think we're gonna be together forever?" They're not really asking you like probabilistically what are the chances. Like they're really saying like, "Do you love me?" That's what they're asking. That's like the actual question. There's kind of like a meta conversation happening, right?
Well, then you should answer the question they're actually asking. Like you could be like, "I don't know if we're gonna be together forever, but I deeply love you."
But then it goes back to that thing I said before, to where people just don't communicate that way. All they're gonna hear you is saying like, "You don't think we're gonna be together forever?" They don't care if you love them now. Now it sounds like you're undermining like, that's what it feels like to me. Or that's what I feel like most people feel.
Yeah, I
But
guess I prefer interacting with not most people.
sure. Yeah, I mean I agree. But I mean obviously that's most people are gonna. It's just good to be aware of how most people feel. So that when somebody asks me a question of like, why do you think you have so many problems with people? Like if I'm just like, oh, I don't know, everybody else is dumb. Like, okay, well you haven't introspected. You don't know why people don't get along with you. You don't know why you run into like that is like dumb, right? You should at least know. I imagine you do know, right? That you have like a different set of like social standards for how you like interact with people, right?
I still think that compassion kind of shows through. Like if you're really coming from like a place of deep compassion, where you're like I really care about you, and because I care about you, I want you to have the right answer, and I'm going to try to answer both the thing that you're like technically answering and the thing I think you're answering in spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I think people can feel that.
Okay. I might just have a lower opinion of people, maybe, but maybe.
We also might be in different communities.
Sure, that too, yeah.
Like you might be accurately calibrated for the kind of people you interact with. Where was the original trail? Where did we deviate?
I sidetracked super hard because you talked about how certain people will get you into their frames of reference without explicitly doing it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good example you gave. The like, oh no, because like he was making like a conversational bit that wasn't owned. Like being like, well, you don't have to. It's like performing the role where you are not doing the persuasive thing. Like, look at me, I'm performing the I am not persuading you role.
Mm-hmm.
And then people like sort of automatically react to it, which I think is a decent example.
Can you think of an example for that?
For that?
For the I'm not persuading you thing.
No, the one that you gave is good.
Okay.
I had a different example, but it was more for like the original frame control thing.
Gotcha.
Which is like I had one conversation with somebody who it was like at a festival, and people kept telling us that we should talk to each other. They're like, oh man, you gotta talk to Aella, because like we kept saying very similar things.
Mm-hmm.
So finally they got us to go on a walk alone together, and I was very excited to talk to this person, because at this point in my life I had a lot of like really strong ideas that I hadn't met anybody else who shared them. Mm-hmm. And they were like really hard for me to articulate, but I really felt them. It was like very clear, and I talked to him and he did share them, and I was really excited.
Mm-hmm.
But throughout this conversation he managed to do a thing where he didn't ask me any questions, but if he did, it was phrased in a way where he was like testing, like the context was that he was like sort of testing me as opposed to genuinely curious.
Yeah.
When I offered up like things that I had, like, oh yes, I had a similar experience, or like this is my thoughts on that, he like almost didn't. It's almost like he didn't hear me. It sort of like didn't.
Or if he does respond to something, it's just a
ah.
segue for him to like talk more, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
And the frame of the thing was that he was teaching me. It was like he was like informing me of the true, like, he's found like a student who maybe can understand him. And at the time I was really taken in by it. I was like, oh my god, this guy's great. But then after like some time passed, I realized that in hindsight, like we hadn't established, like he hadn't presented him explicitly as a teacher at all. It was just sort of this pattern that like he made very subtle conversational moves that like put me in this frame that I couldn't escape in the conversation, and then I became quite resentful about it.
Yeah,
that's just like one example.
There's one of the most common complaints that I hear from women, and it's one of the most common piece of advice that I get from guys. It's so stupid and it sounds so fucking corny, but like taking a genuine interest in the person you're talking to is always, it's like the simplest and it's like the most effective conversational tool. Like there are women that have walked away and have told me afterwards, like, oh my God, like I really love that conversation, and they didn't learn anything about me. Like my goal in the conversation is just like, I just need to ask the right questions to let you talk the most about yourself. I need to remember at least some of the things you've told me so that I can say a joke at some point, referencing back to things you've said before. And then in your mind, you're getting to talk a lot about yourself. I'm remembering it. I'm integrating it, assimilating it in my thought process. And then I'm fucking even joking about it. And like you get this like really strong connection developed. And that, yeah, the amount of people that I hear about complain that like this guy didn't ask me anything or he didn't say anything at all about me or whatever, and then they walk away feeling horrible. The people like don't understand that. It's like, I don't know, it seems like a really basic conversational thing that a lot of people need to work on.
How are you so good at this if you're a sociopath?
I don't think I'm a sociopath. I think I'm really autistic.
Oh, okay.
I think that for a lot of like social convention, there's a lot of things that like I don't care about that don't work. But obviously, if you bounce through life, like I'm a very social person. I like talking to people. It's a lot of fun. But obviously, I have a lot of fucking friction with people until I figure out like what the social rules are. So I think that it's kind of weird. But I think if you're at least slightly intelligent, autistic person, I think you end up learning a bunch of the social rules better than really social people, because you have to actually like explicitly kind of lay them out in your head. Like if you do this, people like that. If you act like this, people respond like that. If you do these things, right? Rather than a lot of people, some people can naturally feel it out, like natural people. Some people, do trial and error. But yeah, for me, it's you have to break out of that. A great escort.
Yeah.
In like the sexual sense or in like the companion sense?
Yeah, I mean like, yeah. I mean, if you were a girl, you make a great escort.
Oh, because a lot of them do like conversation and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically you just go and you ask them questions and pay attention.
I have like you've watched like all the JCS shit, right? Do you know what that is? He does like the true crime, like today this is the interrogation of whoever in like some police room or whatever.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that.
I have like this theory, it's totally bullshit and no scientific backing at all, but I have this theory that the reason why, because I'm watching these videos and I'm like, these like serial killers are going into these interrogation rooms and the entire investigation is being built start to finish on the fucking interrogation. Why are these people saying so much? And as I watched through these things, I think I had this realization where I'm like, you know what? When you go into an interrogation room, I bet this is probably the first time in a lot of these lonely people's lives where someone is actually super genuinely interested in the answer that they have to every single fucking question. And it just makes you want to open up so much, right? Like that incel, like Swedish truck driver that lived in Canada or whatever, where the guy's like, yeah, like, how do you feel about women? Like, what do you learn about this? And this guy's just like, yeah, like the women are the Stacys and the Chads or blah, blah, blah. And this is probably the first time in his life. There's like two adults in front of him that are really invested in everything he has to say. And I bet that feeling is really addictive to people in those interrogation rooms.
That's a fantastic concept. I think that'd make a great skit.
Maybe, yeah. Like
a serial killer uses the interrogation room as like a therapy opening up session.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Unironically, though, I think it is for a lot of these people, yeah.
Yeah, it's really rare. It's so hard. I've been going on dates if in the vague recent past. And it's shocking the amount of people who just don't know how to ask a good question.
Yeah.
I don't understand what's going on. There's some part I understand intellectually, but like I don't understand.
I think that something that I talk a lot about is like, because sometimes people will go into these dates with like, here's like a list of 10 questions, but they don't realize that like these are starting points and you have to actually curiously follow the conversation. Like if you're like, oh God, I've seen people do this in real life, where someone will ask like, oh, like what do you want to be, or what did you want to be like growing up? And somebody might say something like really strange where it's like, I really wanted to be like a police officer in like a foreign country. And then somebody be like, what's your favorite type of animal? And it's like, that was a really interesting answer. Like, why don't you follow up on that at all? Sometimes interviewers have this problem where somebody will kind of hang something out there. And if they've brought it up, they probably want to talk about it because people will do that, right? So they'll hang something really interesting out there. And then the person will ask, just like, they'll go off on another question. I was like, why didn't you follow up on that at all? Like, it's so stupid. And that's what the best conversation is anyways, following up on like the little things that people hang out there, right?
What do you think is going through people's minds? Are they just like terrified?
It depends on how pessimistic or optimistic I am. I guess the pessimistic answer is I think that a lot of things in society, a lot of problems, I think just stem from the fact that a lot of people are just like very inconsiderate and kind of selfish, and they kind of like live in their own head. Like, have you ever been with a person who, like, if you're walking outside and you stop, or maybe you do this actually, you walk outside and you stop somewhere, and I usually have a natural inclination to step to the side, but some people will just like stand in the middle of a sidewalk or a doorway with just no conception on you. You're like, hey, move. There's people trying to get across here, like step out of the way. Like, I think a lot of people are just kind of always in their own little world, and they don't really think about anything else. Yeah. Sorry, fuck. I think we went past 4 seconds. I'm trying desperately to think of something else.
It was 6 seconds.
Oh shit. Oh, do you have a fucking timer running, or are you just counting in your head and you think you're really good at like
No,
a
I started
metronome?
counting in my head.
Oh, how do you know it was 6 seconds then? Maybe you're nervous and you counted quick.
Well,
Maybe 4 seconds was accurate.
I like caught up like the first 3 seconds. It was like a couple seconds and I realized we weren't saying anything, and so I was like, oh shit, how many seconds? And then I started counting.
Can you do something really important for me? 1 second?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I just need you to, it's really important. I just need you to try this real quick and just let me know what number you get, okay? Don't lie, because we can all tell if you're lying.
Can you? Can I keep the rhythm when the beat drops out? Turn up my volume and hit play to begin.
Yeah, you just gotta like hit your spacebar to the beat and keep doing it as it drops out. It's very important.
I scored 549.
Okay. I don't trust your seconds, okay? That's not it. You gotta bring those numbers up, okay?
How did you have like the perfect test available to debunk my claim?
I'm just, well, because you brought up a very specific claim, okay? So, trying to count time.
Yeah, but that's like a very specific test.
Well, I've been on the internet for a long time, okay? I know a lot of things out here, all right?